I can safely say that I will not be the Fed chair. I think President Trump will make a great Fed chair. He has an open mind. He understands monetary policy better than a lot of people on the Fed.
Well, you know, Mr. Trump might make a very good Fed chair. Anyway, joining us to chew on this, E.J. Antoni, Heritage Foundation Chief Economist, Marc Sumerlin, Even Flow Macro Managing Partner. Gentlemen, welcome back. Let's put up on the full screen the poly market betting odds without Scott Bessent, who I think pretty conclusively has taken himself out of the race. You can see that Kevin Hassett is in the lead. Chris Waller is second. Kevin Warsh is third, and on and on and on. Marc Sumerlin, who's going to be the next Fed chair?
I think after what we heard the president say yesterday, my bet would either be Kevin Warsh or Kevin Hassett. And President Trump said that he already has someone in mind, and that suggests then it's going to be someone that he knows well, and that would lead you to Hassett, Warsh, or Bessent. I do find it very interesting, though, that the president keeps saying that Secretary Bessent is his top choice, almost messaging that if he picks someone else, it won't be his preferred person. So maybe there's still a little chance for Scott that they come back to him, but I would bet on one of the Kevins.
Well, I don't know. You could. I'm sure that there's something to that, but there's Trump speak, as I think we all know. He's just he did it again this morning at someplace, the Kennedy Center, I think. Yeah. E.J. Antoni, who do you think is going to be the next Fed chair?
Well, Larry, you know, part of the problem with Scott Bessent or Kevin Hassett is the fact that now you have to take one of those guys out of a role in which they are currently excelling. And I don't really want to do that, right? So, and I assume the president doesn't want to do that either. So that's why I'm leaning more towards Kevin Warsh. Waller obviously really wants the job. You can tell that by every time he opens his mouth, he's trying to signal to the president that he's going to be much more accommodative when it comes to monetary policy. You know, but I think a big reason why the Treasury Secretary wisely has taken himself out of the running is the fact that, yes, he would be able to get interest rates down, but once those interest rates come down, Larry, that's exactly the time when you need Scott Bessent, the world's greatest bond salesman, in the role of Treasury Secretary, so that he can refinance the debt at lower rates. Putting him in as Fed chair is kind of a catch-22 in that sense.
You know, gentlemen, when one of the Federal Reserve Acts, not the original act, I think, I'm not sure, the original act maybe, but the Treasury Secretary sat on the Federal Reserve Board and or the Federal Open Market Committee. I'm not saying they ran it, I'm not saying they were chair, but they were members going way back. Yeah. I don't know whether that would require new legislation or not, which brings me to the meeting in early December, Marc Sumerlin, to cut a quarter or not cut a quarter. What are you thinking?
Yeah, and just to the point you were making, the original Fed offices was in the Treasury building before they had their own building, so even stronger than that.
You mean before they had their own 5 buildings, or however many they have now? Yeah, sorry.
Exactly.
I didn't mean
Look, the Fed told us today that they're not planning to cut, which I think is a mistake. We see inflation decelerating broadly in October in every single indicator that we're getting from the private sector. Something called Open Brands, they measure 1.4 million prices. They say that inflation cooled markedly during October. We can see it in price stats. And then I want to point out the price of lumber is really coming down. So they should be cutting. But the minutes say there are more people that don't want to cut. And importantly, what really moved the markets today was the BLS said, we're not going to get the October and November employment report until after the next Fed meeting. And so that just means there's less data to change the Fed's mind, which is why the market sort of took out that rate cut today.
Just one lab. EJ, Chris Waller, who was a very smart fellow, he gave a speech a couple days ago and basically said they need to cut, and basically said inflation is coming down. It's not tariff inflation, but he is worried about a sloppier labor market, which we may not know about until the numbers are passed due. The point is, Waller made a pretty forceful speech, and I wonder, he is a person of gravitas, and he is respected. Might he be the new benchmark? You know, these notes that Marc Sumerlin's talking about were a ways ago. They were, you know, pre-shutdown. You think Waller influenced anybody real quick, E.J. Antoni?
Larry, certainly possible. One of my concerns, though, with Waller is I think he's getting a little too hyper-focused on just the interest rate, and he's not paying attention to the overall balance sheet. And again, this is where I think the two Kevins probably get the situation. They understand it a little better. We have a situation right now where the Fed has set us up for monetary failure. There's no other word for it, because they're going to have to stop QT, quantitative tightening, and they're going to have to restart QE in a relatively short period of time. And those are all inflationary pressures that they're going to create within the economy. I mean, it genuinely is a mess.
Why don't they shrink the balance sheet and open the door to lower rates?
Well, because
let inflation expectations come down, and rates will adjust lower, and we'll all live happily ever. And never mind, it's another. We'll have that segment. We'll have both of you back, and we'll have that segment. Anyway, E.J. Antoni and Marc Sumerlin, thank you very much. We will wait to see who the Fed chairs. I think it could be, but the announcement before the end of the year.